Welcome back to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan. With me as my guest co-host is Dan Greenstein from Bernick Lifson. If you're just joining us, we are broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios. We're brought to you this hour by Extreme Exteriors. And before we get back into our story, I'd like to just let our listeners know that we have a resource for you that's available for free. We do a bi-monthly newsletter called What's New. A lot of the topics that you're going to hear on this radio show is covered in that newsletter. A lot of the people that we have on our show also are presenters in the newsletter as well. We have over 18,000 subscribers. It's yours free. All you have to do is give us a call, 952-2500 during the week at New Concepts. Ask for Courtney. She'll make sure that you start receiving your subscription. And again, if you're just joining us, the story we're following right now is coming out of South Carolina, a dispute between homeowners and an association where it's getting to be a matter not just involving two people, but the entire association and even the police and the community surrounding. And so right before break, Dan, we were talking about this woman, Marcolini. Now, she was upset, and probably rightfully so. She has a little dog, a Chihuahua, which is maybe all of 2-3 pounds. And a neighbor, had a dog that got loose. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think it was an accident.
Okay.
And scared her dog. And she has since, I guess, things have just kind of escalated, haven't they, between her and her neighbors, this whole dog incident. They said, who called the police? Well,
the police have been called 20 times over
in
the
last
6 months. That is just crazy. Maybe instead of staying neutral, one thing that might have happened differently would have been if the association had not tried to stay neutral. Had they taken a look at it, and had they contacted the parties and said to the neighbor with the larger dog, you know what, neighbor, we understand your dog got loose, and normally you follow the rules, but in this instance, the dog scared the Chihuahua. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We're going to send you a warning letter, or we're going to issue a small fine to you. Yeah. Maybe this whole incident would have gone a different direction.
Yeah.
Just maybe.
I agree. I mean, I think it's important before things escalate, before people make assumptions, that people gather facts. And unfortunately, that has not happened here by anybody in this story.
Exactly.
You take a look at the statements by Marcolini. She's sure that it is the homeowners who are being vengeful and lying and hateful.
Right.
But I don't know that she's really talking to any of them. The other neighbor who had the loose dog, he is making the claim that Marcolini was purposely in her car and driving fast, speeding, mm-hmm. directing it, trying to scare the little kids in the neighborhood. And, I mean, there is just no value to any of that statement from that guy whatsoever.
No.
Or any validity.
One of the things that I find with homeowners associations is that when there are disagreements, and in these troubled economic times, it seems to me there's more and more disagreements. Mm-hmm. When there are disagreements, you, instead of becoming more informal and more lackadaisical, I think you have to tighten the reins a little bit. You've got to follow the right procedures, and you really have to enforce your governing documents. Otherwise, people are constantly pushing and pushing and pushing on the boundaries, and things tend to lose control. And that's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly here. And the thing that gets me about this is I think it's something that we're seeing statewide and even nationally too, when you're dealing with politics, and politics is just dealing with people.
Exactly.
You have people that are just making the rhetoric just more inflammatory.
I agree.
And there's just there's no reason, there's nothing that does other than getting people excitable, and it clouds the facts that are really going on.
It also clouds people's normally reasonable judgment. I'm just guessing here. Of course, we don't really know any of these people. I'm guessing this thing is purely emotional, like you said, is not based on facts. And I'm wondering, certainly there's disputes in good times, but I'm wondering what part in all this the severe economic downturn may be playing.
Okay, that's an interesting point. People are a little bit more on edge just because of the way things are with them financially.
Right.
The association too, probably hurting from finances. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And from delinquent accounts. Sure.
Yeah. The statement that Marcolini said, this was my only course of action. Do you believe that?
I don't know what to believe in that, but what was the course of action? To put up these signs on her property that don't specify any particular person. They simply throw out these adjectives and adverbs: evil, venomous, vengeful. It doesn't seem to have accomplished what she wanted it to accomplish, which is to just be left alone. Certainly, as a member of the association, she had a right to file a complaint with the board of directors and try to get them to investigate the facts.
Now, we don't know if that took place, but my guess is, I'm going to make an assumption here, probably didn't happen, because we have a interview by the board president who doesn't refer to that at all.
That's right.
And you think he probably would have. They were also, the board was trying to just stay out of this. And sometimes I'm of two minds. There's a part of me that understands, just in the working of a homeowners association, the board of directors don't necessarily have a lot of ability to control behavior.
And certainly not to be able to solve a dispute between neighbors.
Exactly. Now, they have the authority to do that to a certain degree, but the ability to actually get that accomplished, I think that's putting more on the board than they have probably the ability to handle.
Well, let me play devil's advocate with you for a minute, because if you boil this whole article down, what you've got is a problem with the dogs. You've got problems with signs being put up in a neighbor's unit, and you've got a claim of speeding on the drives in the association. All three of those things are something that the association has the right and probably the responsibility to investigate once a claim has been made, and to make some findings to determine what they believe went on, and perhaps then to issue a warning or a fine or take some other action to resolve the dispute, at least to the extent that they can. So, playing devil's advocate with you, I think part of the problem lies in the fact that the board of directors has taken no action, or at least none that we're aware of. And I think had they taken some action, had they stepped in, had they viewed the small dog owner's complaint with some reasonable degree of concern, I think this whole story might have gone a different way.
I think it certainly could have. I agree with you. I think that the board in this case, if they had been proactive, I think they probably could have kept some of the rancor that neighbors seem to have towards one another out of the picture a little bit, and be able to deal with the situation, the situations that you're talking about. A dog that got loose, a sign that's up and people don't like that, potential speeding in a vehicle. You're right, those are things that if the association is aware of, they have some degree of authority and responsibility to try and talk to the members about controlling those behaviors. They also have at their disposal the municipality and the police to help them in some of those issues.
It doesn't sound like that avenue is working. If the police have been called 20 times over 6 months and no one's been charged with anything, I think the police are finding it either a non-criminal matter, or they're not collecting enough evidence and we're not taking it seriously enough to file any charges.
Yeah, my guess is what's happened here. Did this happen? Did this gentleman's large dog probably get off leash? Yes. Is it a reoccurring problem? No. Otherwise, you'd think the police would probably find it.
Sure.
This woman, did she probably go a little bit faster in the community? Yes. Is it something that was a recurring issue? Probably not. Again, otherwise the police would probably have found that. But if they've been out, like you said, over 20 times in the last few months and can't find anything, this may be what we talked about earlier, neighbors who are just kind of letting the ante go up here as the emotions continue to get away from them.
And Gene, one more point. If I'm a neighbor that's not involved in this dispute, but I live nearby these other neighbors, I want the board to do something to resolve this. I don't want it going on in my neighborhood. And certainly if I'm trying to sell my house and we've got the dog signs, we got the signs up, we've got the dogs barking, we've got the lady speeding by in her car, that can't be good.
Yeah. And, the board should have gotten involved. Other things, the board wouldn't even have had to have gotten involved if the neighbor who was first upset about the dog that got away spoke to the neighbor in a more gentle manner. Perhaps the guy would have said, you're right. I'm sorry. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to let it happen again because we're neighbors. But we never got there. It just seemed that there was just one escalation after another.
Gene, don't you think maybe these two had something cooking between them for quite a while before this?
You think so?
I have a feeling there was some bad blood there already, and this might have been just enough to boil over.
Yeah. Well, folks, what do you think? We have a hotline for where you live. If you call during the week, 952-224-2668, you can give us your comments about any of the stories that we've covered here on the show. If you have any questions you want us to address, give us a call. Again, the hotline number, 952-224-2668. Well, we're going to need to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's taking place in Florida, an issue that could cause homeowner associations to make it a lot harder for them to pay their bills. We'll talk about that after these messages.